How's it going?
It's going good. Creepy Kingdom, welcome.
Thank you. So one thing I took from the film was the cinematography made you feel like you're like really in the water with the characters. Was that an intentional thing you're trying to get across in the storytelling?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to put the audience in that perspective. One thing we talked about was like, Jaws, obviously a huge influence for me, huge influence on this movie. And the big conversation we had was like, how do you make the swimming pool feel like an ocean? How do you make it feel so immersive and mysterious? Because you think it's like it's only 44 feet long, it's 22 feet wide, it's 9 feet deep. Or is it, right? And it's that sense of like what you don't see, like what's behind the drain flap, where does the pool go when the lights go off and you can't see the bottom? So we'd use wide lenses and these kind of vintage older lenses that create this kind of scope that you almost feel like it's bigger than it should be. The dimensions almost seem to be a little bit like paradoxical, and that was really fun. It's cool that you caught that. It was a cool challenge that we had. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, it actually reminded me of swimming as a kid because it really felt like that. What you don't see, your imagination.
That's right.
Fills in blanks.
That's exactly it. I'm just trying to tap into that like irrational phobia of what it felt like to be when you were a child. The pool feels bigger anyway because you're smaller.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was really trying to take us back into that childlike place of like feeling something brush your foot from beneath and be like, oh God, what the, Sure. So that's cool that you felt that. It's great.
Right on. Another thing I took away from the film is it seemed like it was a metaphor for there's danger in seemingly safe places. Was that an intentional thing?
Well, totally. It's that kind of Stephen King model of like, the 1958 like Plymouth Fury, the car, Christine, or the family dog, Cujo, right? It's the things that are supposed to be safe that can do us the most harm sometimes because we put our defenses down. And, for this family, they're just looking for a little slice of the American dream. They're looking for a little slice of happiness. They're trying to start their life over. And there's something weaponizing that desire against them.
Sure.
So that was always Stephen King definitely was, it's the way he approaches creating fear out of something that shouldn't be scary was certainly a big influence on this.
Okay, cool. And speaking of inspiration, what were your inspirations for this story?
Yeah, beyond Stephen King, definitely Jaws, trying to capture that feeling, and then just growing up on Creature from the Black Lagoon, water aquatic horror was huge for me growing up, and I think a movie like Poltergeist, I loved, and I loved the nostalgic feeling of Poltergeist, and we'd really try to kind of capture a bit of that here with the family moving to the house, and but then taking it in our own direction with the pool. The pool's the thing that's unique to this movie. But I think the Burnt Offerings or Amityville Horror, The Shining, all those kind of family-driven horror films where it's a family in peril, that was a huge references and an influence on Night Swim for sure.
So the family thing, was that why you kind of stayed in the PG-13 range because you wanted to appeal to more families to experience horror?
It just never felt like it was the story that wanted to be like Martyrs or just some super hardcore.
Sure.
I think the Poltergeist is the reference was it's scary as all get out, but it feels like parents could enjoy it, kids could enjoy it, and it does kind of I think really reference that kind of 1980s feeling horror film that was those are not super hardcore films. They're really scary, but they're supernatural thrillers. And I think I always felt that's where we should be, even honestly beside the rating, just narratively.
Okay.
I felt that's where we wanted to be with this.
You saw something, didn't you?
What inspired Night Swim to have Blumhouse and Atomic Monster collaborate again?
Yeah, you look at a movie like this and it feels like a no-brainer. What the companies both do well is tell human dramas. At their core, the odds that our characters go up against, are supernatural. They're slashers, It's
Sure.
and both companies do that very well. With Night Swim began as a short, and Atomic Monster had identified that and worked on it a bit and brought it into us. And we looked at it, and it just kind of aligned with our sensibilities and philosophies. And Jason and James go back a long time. Judson Scott, who is also an executive producer, Michael Clear, we all get along great. We all just come from the same walks of life when it comes
Sure.
to horror. We all speak the same language. We all can speak the same shorthand when it comes to scary movie making. And this just was, again, it was a no-brainer.
Great. So what was the process of making it from a short film to a feature length?
Yeah. I mean, listen, a lot of that was on Bryce, because when you watch a short film, you kind of wonder what's the feature story out of this. With short films, they work best within their short confines. And for a minute, I would say, with Night Swim, I was like, okay, what's the movie in this?
Sure,
And Bryce had it all worked out. Him and Rod Blackhurst, who was also Bryce's collaborator on the short film, they dialed into the wishing well allegory really well, and they kind of carved out every idea you could possibly carve out when it comes to pool. When you think about a pool, you think about, playing on the diving board. You think about playing with coins. You think about putting your hand in the filter.
Right, yeah.
All of these things that you, as a kid, you go, oh, what if I put my hand in the filter and something grabbed you? You see all of that, and we told Bryce, it was like, carve out every single little idea that you can and make it a scary scene. Marco Polo, for instance. And so once that hard work was done, that concept was done, it thematically worked hand in hand. That wishing well allegory worked hand in hand with the Ray Waller arc of the story about this guy who had his dreams taken away, and the pool is there to give it back to him, or at least set him on a path where he thinks he's going to get back to his career.
So what were some of the challenges filming in water?
When you shoot in water, safety is absolutely paramount. Absolute paramount. And it was like, when we started casting, it was asking everybody their level of comfort when it comes to water, swimming, so on. Our stunt coordinator was integral to that conversation. Our effects team was integral to that because obviously we're shooting this giant body of water. So once we got all of that out of the way, then it was like, okay, on the technical side, what kind of cameras can we use? Are we using a crane? All this stuff. Surprisingly, the thing that I learned very early on is just like pool clarity. Obviously, when the Wallers first see the pool, it's filled with vines and leaves and, all sorts of muck. But, when Bryce wanted that scene where the Wallers are diving into their pool for the first time after having cleaned it up, he wanted crystal clear water. Oh, yeah. And when we shot that day, it was still filled with like kind of chemical particulates and stuff like that from the chlorine. And we were like, oh no, this can't work. This can't work.
Sure.
So we brought in a pro. We obviously had a pool guy come in, but he was like, oh no, you just need to do this and this. And by the next morning when we showed up, the pool looked so idyllic. You just wanted to dive in. And it was also a wonderful temperature too. But that's something you have to maintain. So it was like every day it was a check-in with the pool tech and go, oh, wow. Oh, how's the water today? How's it looking? And making sure that consistency was there the entire way, of course, until the pool starts to show its darker side. And, that was a lot of VFX assistance.
Right, there needed to be a wardrobe consistency for the pool.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Thank you for watching, and thank you to our sponsors and Patreon producers for making this video possible. Hit the subscribe button so the creepy fun never has to end. This is Hannah reminding you to keep it creepy.